Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Monday, February 16th, 2026, and today we're talking spring broccoli from start to finish and the risks of lawn clippings, because why not? So let's do it. All right, happy Monday to everyone. I hope you all had nice Valentine's Day weekends. Ours was great. Saturday, Hannah and I went to an Indian grocery store in Lexington that's not too far from us that had an excellent buffet in the back. Shouts to Sai Super Bazaar. And we did watch our soccer game. And around 42 minutes in, I decided it would probably be a nice Valentine's Day gift to just let Liverpool win because, I'm a decent husband and I feel like that was the right thing to do. Anyway, I did also go birding on Friday and Saturday, skipping Sunday for the rain. And I plan, in fact, to go out again today to finish out our backyard bird count. So if you haven't done that yet, today is the day. Go hit up the link in the show notes to learn more, or just download the Merlin app and then go out and spy some birds. I managed to get some photos this weekend, but they were quite mediocre, to be honest. And I don't really know why, except that every bird I wanted to take a picture of insisted on either bouncing around or just hiding. I got an awesome message, though, from Patreon member Colin Ince, who said they went out to birdwatch this weekend and saw a Cooper's hawk snatch a robin out of the sky. Amazing. That's wild. Birds are super cool. I recorded about 16 birds in all so far, all of our usual wintry stuff here, but that's good too. Good to see they're still here, and hopefully I can add a couple more today. We'll find out. All right, so it is Monday, where every week this year we are digging into a single, less talked about crop in a series we're calling Planting and Raving. Today, the crop we're going to cover is spring broccoli. Is that different from fall broccoli? Well, it can be, and that will depend a little bit on your region. For us, though, we don't grow a ton of broccoli now that we do not do a CSA, which I'll talk about shortly, but we typically go with the faster growing broccolis in the spring and then slower growing broccolis in the fall. And anyway, since I was starting a couple trays of broccoli the other day for spring broccoli, I thought it would be great to dive into this crop a little bit and talk about considerations for early spring broccoli and tips for success. First, is it even worth growing broccoli? Obviously, broccoli is delicious, so if you enjoy broccoli, and like I enjoy broccoli, then duh, for sure, totally worth it. But this question of is it worth it is not an unreasonable one from a market gardening perspective, because you have this crop that is going to take roughly 2+ months to mature. Once you get it in the ground, it's going to attract an unreasonable amount of pest pressure from the second you plant it, and it's going to give you a single harvestable head in most cases. So, really, is it worth it? And the answer is that it definitely can be if you are able to charge what the head is worth, which can be around, you get one head for every 1.5 square feet. That's around $7 to $10 a head arbitrarily, then sure. But that's not easy to do in most markets. And to clarify where I got that number, if you have 200 square feet of bed space and you need each crop or each bed to gross roughly $1,000, then a broccoli head taking up 1.5 square feet would have a gross of like $7.50, something like that. Anyway, a CSA can be a great way to use this crop, as you can pad that cost with other crops that are a little bit cheaper to produce. Chefs, of course, will love some fresh broccoli, but I would avoid too much wholesaling unless you can get a great price for it. Same goes for cauliflower and Romanescos, but we'll cover that stuff a little bit later. As a marketing aside here, I've always thought that crudité platters could be a great value add as a farmer, but of course, value adding is like starting another business, so be careful about that sort of stuff, and you need a commercial kitchen and all the things. Each farm will have to decide if it's worth it for them to grow this crop, and there are also ways to boost broccoli's revenue that aren't value adding. For instance, we planted a row of radishes beneath broccoli to help boost the earnings potential of the bed, so we didn't have to charge quite as much because it won't always sell, it's $7.50 a head or more. We've also transplanted lettuce inside of the broccoli for the same reason, and we will talk about bed prep and growing in the third segment, but broccoli is notably a heavy feeder, so any double cropping or intercropping or whatever should also be thoughtfully designed, and the bed should be in tip-top shape. For varieties, choose something faster in the spring in order to outrace any potential cabbage butterflies or that sort of thing. They tend to come out in June, so our goal is always to have the crop basically done by that time. When you start to see those white butterflies that give you those green worms that like to devour the brassicas and get inside of your broccoli like little jerks. But in slightly cooler or more regulated climates than our own that don't go from winter straight into summer and then sometimes back just for goofs, then you could also get away with a succession of broccoli, or with growing one shorter season, 59-ish day broccoli, and one longer, like 70-ish day broccoli in the spring. The longer the season, the better the flavor, in my opinion, but also the more time for pests to work their magic. I start my broccoli in February, obviously, but if I were like in a much cooler climate, I would move it back later, like later February or even early March. This is especially true if you do not have a great way to protect them, as they will need to be kept from freezing in the greenhouse. And then generally, if you're going to plant them early in the field, they'll also have to be protected from those late frosts and or freezes. In the greenhouse, I use heat cables and row cover, but they're basically just like warming cables that you would use for keeping your pipes cool. I have that on top of our seedling tables, and then I'll put row cover over top of that, especially on colder nights, like 20 Fahrenheit or below. That would be like -6 or colder. That cold or any colder, I will bring those younger broccoli in to avoid buttoning up. That's just creating those small early heads, which can happen if they think they've gone through a winter, which in some cases they kind of have. So, touche. I guess in that way, farming is sort of tricking them. That's the goal. You're trying to trick them into thinking it's just a really long, slow spring. So we start them in 2-inch soil blocks to get them through until we plant them, preferably in April. Now, if they outgrow their soil blocks, which in a warmer year they will, in our greenhouse, we will add a little bit more soil to them. Similar to how we'll do like those soil balls for the peppers or tomatoes, we'll just add a little bit of soil mix. It's pretty fast, and we can do it in just, like a minute. It's not as fast, obviously, as adding like fish hydrolysate, but we'd rather add something to the plant for the roots to grow a little bit longer, instead of getting them used to just having this like nice fast burst of nitrogen. We want to get them acclimated to having to harvest some of their own nutrients. And then also, adding more soil mix to the garden is generally a good thing. Oh, and broccolis like it warm for germination, in that like 75 to 80 degree range, which would be like 25 to 28 Celsius. They can germinate at lower temps, but like anything, it just takes longer. Anyway, we will tackle the actual growing part in the third segment, but first, let's have a little bit of a lawn clipping aperitif, shall we? Actually, don't drink it. I don't think you could drink it. You could like a smoothie or something. That would be still terrible. Don't do that. BRB. Today's episode is brought to you by Certified Naturally Grown. Certified Naturally Grown is the grassroots certification built by farmers for farmers. C&G gives local growers like you recognition for the commitment of producing food without synthetic chemicals by assuring customers that your practices are verified. C&G's peer review inspection model keeps the cost of certification low while creating opportunities for knowledge sharing amongst a strong, supportive network of like-minded farmers. Apply today to be certified before the season ramps up. Applications processed within 7 days. Learn more at naturallygrown.org. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Joanne Fisher, who writes, quote, "Happy New Year's Eve day." That obviously this was from a while back. "Thank you so much for all you do and teach us. We live in Denver and have turned our yard into gardens. I have a compost question about grass clippings. I see all these lawn mowing companies with trailers full of grass going to the dump. If I took a trailer for my compost, should I be overly concerned about residual chemicals from lawn care companies? Would you recommend this option for us city dwellers? I do get wood chips dropped. Thank you," end quote. All right, so this is a great question, and it's a little bit of a tough one too, because there are times when the grass clippings from lawn care companies and lawn mowing companies and municipalities will be perfectly fine, and other times when they will be the exact opposite. Part of the reason for that is some of the greatest abuses of chemicals, herbicides, and pesticides occur not from farmers, but from homeowners who don't read or follow the instructions, or frankly don't care and think if a little bit of stuff sprayed on some weeds works, then a lot will work better. So that means they apply more and give heavy concentrations and maybe even just like dump it out on their lawn. A lawn care company may use some herbicides, but they are less likely to over-apply them because, well, it costs more money to apply herbicides and can trickle into their bottom line, so they're less likely to do it. Oftentimes, though, homeowners are likely to just not care as much about those things and apply as much as they can. In my opinion, these chemicals should not be available over the counter like they are. I mean, at all. There are some pretty brutal chemicals permitted for purchase in most states, and including in Colorado, where I can see, like various broadleaf herbicides that, it would harm many of your plants if they came in contact with the lawn clippings. Now, if it were me and if I had access to like bulk lawn clippings that I didn't know the provenance, but I could compost them well and had no real rush to get them into the garden, I would probably take them. I hate to see organic matter at the dump, even if it's mildly contaminated. And you can always run a bioassay later to assess the remaining potency. That is to say, you can, use that compost, like in trays, and then just observe how well like a certain thing like legumes does when you grow them out of those trays. Over time, these chemicals will break down, especially in compost, but again, emphasis on over time. For some, it can take several months to years, some of these chemicals. That said, if any risk is too much for you or you don't have a way to compost and cure the material well, I understand and don't blame you for not using them, or at least not using them right around your plants. I mean, if I'm just going to put a button on this one, we have to start thinking more holistically as a culture about this stuff. If we don't want it in our natural systems, and especially if we don't want to eat it, we have to rally together and fight the availability of these sort of chemicals and nip these issues in the bud, so we're not having to weigh the risks later on when we're just like, hey, we shouldn't waste all those grass clippings. We just need like a massive cultural reevaluation of chemical usage in our society. We need policy that supports it, and it's going to require all of us to make that happen. People just need to be okay with some weeds in their lawns and around their houses. They don't hurt anybody. In fact, may even be edible. Anyway, those are my thoughts, and I'll let the comment section do its work. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break and get back to one of those crops that notably wouldn't love being against some broadleaf herbicides. Not at all. Rock and roll. Yeah, I did that. Be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Tend. Farming is hard, running it shouldn't be. Meet Tend, the purpose-built platform built by farmers for farmers. Plan your season, map your farm, and track every task from seed to sale. No more spreadsheets, no more guesswork, just smart, seamless workflows. Tend adapts to your farm, 1 acre or 100. Real-time inventory, sales, labor, tracking, traceability, and analytics all in one place. You grow food, flowers, fruit, and more. Tend helps you to grow smarter. Start free today at tend.com. That's TEND.com. All right, back to the show. All right, so planting the broccoli. First, broccoli is a slow-growing crop and a crop that we never directly seed. And like I said in the first segment, we prefer to start it in transplants and grow those until, you get a few true leaves, generally like 4 inches tall. You can go a little bigger if you want, or if you have the space. The nice thing about spring broccoli is that you don't have to worry so much about pests beyond aphids. Like in the summer in the greenhouse, everything can find the broccoli. Harlequin beetles, cabbage worms, mice, bored animals just looking for something to do. Seemingly everything wants to mess with them in the summer when you're starting for them for the fall. But in the spring, it's much more tame in my experience. Mice and aphids are your main issues in the greenhouse, and then flea beetles in the field. For the mice and aphids, the card table, again, for the win, like I talked about last week when I did that in-field seeding session. And then in the field, I do like the insect netting, but we'll talk about that in a second. In the greenhouse, we grow them out, again, protected from freezes, until about mid-April here. That is about 4 weeks from our last chance of frost, but it's largely past our last chance of freeze. If we plant them that early, we will also cover them with row cover, as much for the flea beetles as the frost. We just want to keep them from getting too cold. For bed prep, it's good to take your time. As a heavy feeder, it's good to apply a decent layer of rich compost plus some kelp if you have it for micronutrients. A lot of brassicas love that. And decompact the soil with a broad fork if need be to let some of those amendments fall deep into the soil. Then rake or lightly harrow the surface and plant the broccoli at about 14 to 18 inches apart. That's 35 to 45 centimeters. So if you're on a 30-inch bed, that's 75 centimeter bed. That would be 2 rows, and we get 3 on a 48-inch bed, so that's 122 centimeters. The closer together that you plant them, the smaller the heads will be. But also, if you do want to take advantage of some interplanting opportunities, that extra room will help a lot to achieve 2 nice crops. Just having, more like 18 inches apart, so a little bit further apart, and then having space in between them to sow something else. Now, like I mentioned, we cover the crops to protect them from cold through the last chance of frost, May 10th here. The goal being to avoid that buttoning up effect from a hard frost where they create those little heads, which are not as profitable. Then the nice thing in the spring is we can usually just take the frost protection off, and not worry about covering for pests. After a few weeks in the ground, broccoli are usually past their most vulnerable time for flea beetles, though don't make assumptions about that if you have flea beetle issues. So if we see flea beetle damage, we will recover them with insect netting. If they still have radishes underneath, we will go straight to the insect netting too, though, after the row cover comes off, just to protect the greens. The reason we don't just use the row cover as insect netting is that it just gets too hot, but in a cooler climate or cooler season, it can work too. We don't really use BT very often. That's Bacillus thuringiensis. But if the broccoli is growing slow and the cabbage butterflies are out, we will consider it just to keep those green caterpillars out of the broccoli heads because nobody really wants that. And BT is just a targeted bacterium allowed in organic production. And although we don't usually have problems if we do everything else right, some years it just comes in handy to have it around. Anyway, after that, it's just about letting the broccoli grow. If you want to, you can give them a nice dose of fish hydrolysate right before they head up. Then that helps to increase the head size, though the cost and labor should be factored in. But if you're growing them at home, just like a nice little, nitrogen boost right as they're starting to head up. For harvest, make sure you know what a ripe broccoli head looks like. The florets should be tight and green. If it starts to loosen or look yellow at all, it's time to go. Cut them low on the stem. Also harvest some of those leaves for eating and selling if they look good. They're somewhere in between like a collard and a kale. But only do that after you get the heads because, you don't want to slow down your head production. For harvest them into bins and get them cooled off fast. Broccoli respires like nobody's business and it's eager to compost once it's harvested. It's like, all right, I'm dead. Let's just go. Let's just get to the next stage. So cooling them off will help to slow that process. Then for spring broccoli, sell within the week. Now, some broccoli like DeCiccio will continue to make a tiny side shoot, like these little tiny side shoots that you can harvest and bunch together after that main one comes off. But that's rare for most broccolis. Unless you're doing specific sprouting broccolis, you're really only getting one head, per plant. So I recommend cutting the whole plant low on the stalk at harvest and discarding the lower half as you are effectively clearing, i.e. prepping the bed while you harvest for the next crop, and then harvest those into a bin or something that you can pop right into the cooler that is somewhat airtight. Anyway, I think that's the gist for spring broccoli. You all let me know what I should have added or any questions that you have. Anyway, I think we're going to be done with this Monday because Tuesday calls, I think. I haven't checked it yet. I can hear my phone ringing. But anyway, don't forget, No-Till Growers is a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife Hannah for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook at notillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, you sign up in the month of February, you'll get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Farmer Friend. Nice. Welcome aboard, Farmer Friend. This week's story, should you choose to accept it by signing up or bumping up as a Patreon member, is about a guitarist named James. Now, James used to be in a band for many years, kind of like a metal band, but they they called themselves bluescore. It was cool. It was a little weird. But anyway, he used to be in this band for many years. And in fact, he was pretty good. And now he mostly just makes his money giving guitar lessons and doing occasional studio gigs, though he would say both of those things are getting increasingly difficult to make money in because, the rise of AI teachers and musicians. But James insists that's not something he really wants to complain about. Anyway, one day James is sitting in the guitar shop where he works waiting on his next lesson, or at least he was, but they canceled, when a group of 4 guys in Picos walk in and look at James and say, "We're going on tour and we need a guitarist. You've been recommended. You in?" James has never seen these people before in his life, but something tells him this is no ordinary tour, and that is for tomorrow on Let's Rock. Yeah, we'll roll with that for now, but we'll see. Thanks for watching and or listening. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.